Hi everyone, how are you doing and welcome back. So with the recent player population boom of Battlefield 1, I thought it would be a good time to cover some of the basics that new players need to know when first playing Battlefield 1. Now, these tips are very basic, however I have created other videos that cover these topics and much more in further detail, which can be found on this channel and linked at the end of this video as well as in the description for you to check out after this and be brought up to speed on all things Battlefield 1. So, you've gone to multiplayer, and you've been shown 4 classes. Which one's the best to pick? You know, you've got all these different gadgets, weapons, and, you know, it can be a bit overwhelming. I've always said the medic class is the best one to pick, as, you know, it's a quite easy class to understand, and it's got some very nice, well-rounded weapons for you to be able to engage enemies at multiple distances. Simply put, all the medic does is focus on reviving and healing teammates with the gadgets it has, whether that's the medical syringe, or the medical pouch or box, and as you learn the game you'll get more of an understanding about this role as well as other ones on the battlefield. The M1907 trench and factory variant are both a good starter weapon as they have a fast rate of fire, so they're really good in sort of those close quarter engagements. I have done a full medic guide along with all the different specializations to use, gadget, weapons and other tips and tricks about the medic class. That'll be linked in the description, and I'd recommend you check that out so you can get more of a further understanding of the medic class. A bit like the classes, there's plenty of game modes for you to pick and choose from Conquest to Team Deathmatch to Domination to Operation. Battlefield 1 has plenty of game modes for you to try and play. Now, I've seen this from a lot of new players and I've experienced it myself in the past on Battlefield Bad Company 2, and that's getting shot from every direction without seeing the enemy. With Battlefield, because it's known for those big open maps with both vehicle and infantry combat, and there's many playstyles that you can play on each map, it can be a bit frustrating to get shot from either the front, left, right, behind without ever seeing an enemy. So for that operation, it's a bit more of a linear game mode as you're either attacking or defending one of 2 objectives, and essentially you've got more of an idea of where the enemy will come from. More than likely they're going to be in front of you, or as you know, you're either going forwards or going backwards if you're defending. So really it's quite easy to kind of have more of an idea of where they're going to come from. Now if you want to play one of the staple game modes, which is Conquest, this is where it's a big map with like from anywhere from 4 to 5 to 6 capture points throughout the map, and you know you have to go to any of these points at any point and sort of either find enemies there. There'd be enemies behind you, sort of towards your base, there'd be enemies in front of you, all over the place. This one I'd suggest is when you kind of get more of a feel of Battlefield and kind of how to sort of read the map and stuff like that, which I'll get into in a minute. So start off with Operation and then sort of progress into Conquest, where I find it a lot more fun to be able to have that infantry and vehicle sort of combat go hand in hand and sort of working and sort of fighting around that. Like many other FPS games, Battlefield 1 also has a minimap that you're able to utilise and get information from, and I use this all the time, whether I'm defending an objective, attacking an objective, moving in between objectives. You know, just I'm always constantly checking the minimap, as the information on there is vital for your survival, and it helps so much to utilise this, as whether a teammate or a squad mate die, it gets marked on the map with this symbol. Now teammates is in blue and squad mates is in green, and what I also use it to look for is where enemies are, because Battlefield has a mechanic which I'll speak about in a bit, where you can spot enemy soldiers and they appear on the map for both yourself and your team. So if you see sort of several enemies, sort of red dots on the map, you know that there's more enemies, sort of there's enemies in that direction. But you can also use it, so like if you see like no red dots spotted, or you see like an open area of the map where you haven't got any teammates at all, more than likely there'll be enemies flanking from that area, so you kind of need to watch your flanks for potentially enemies to come behind and shoot you in the back. So that's kind of the use of the minimap. Once again, I'll go into more depth on this on other videos, which I'll have linked in the description down below. But that's the general overview for the minimap. Just use it. There's information on there that was vital for your survival in this game. Now, this next tip is one that I see people rarely use, but it's such a lifesaver, this grenade is. It's one of the most underutilized grenades in Battlefield, but if you know how to use it, you can get more kills than any grenade will ever give you, and that's the smoke grenade. Like, smokes are your best friend, both as a medic when reviving teammates, but also being able to move around the map and not get shot. I use smokes for like everything, whether that's throwing it on a teammate to revive them, blocking an enemy's line of sight. So if I know there's a sniper sort of just up that hill that's looking at me, I'll fire a smoke in that direction to block his view so I can move around, flank him, kill him. If I need to cross a street, I'll throw a smoke down if there's a tank coming towards me, I'll throw smoke on the tank, you know, try and be able to get out of sight of the tank and sort of retreat. So the smoke is such an underutilized grenade that just by using it, you're already ahead of most players in Battlefield, because you can just do so much with it, from creating flank routes, putting it on enemy vehicles for teammates to then put dynamite on and blow them up, and you can just obscure the enemy's view of the battlefield, and you're able to just move around it, getting sort of cheeky flanks going on, be able to shoot people in the back with it. It's an amazing grenade that's really underutilized. So just by equipping it, like I said, you're already ahead of most people on the battlefield. So I touched on this earlier on, and that's sort of squad and team play. Now, by being able to sort of understand this and use it to your advantage, you know, it will reduce the amount of times you will die. Because when you first start off with Battlefield, like, it's just one of those things that you'll die a lot as you kind of learn the game and sort of understand how sort of the different maps flow and different positions enemies like to post up in. So by sticking with your team and your squad, you can get health, ammo, and you're less likely to get killed. Because if you kind of like lone wolf it when you're still learning the game, you can come against sort of 3-4 enemies that have been playing, say, for like several years, since this game's been out for a while, and you'll just more than likely get killed by all of them, and you kind of get a, you know, it won't be a fun experience. You know, as you get more confident and more understanding of the game, you can go off sort of on your own to get those flanks off for then your squad to spawn on you. However, in the meantime, I do recommend sort of sticking with your squad, just so that way then you can get, like I said, heal, ammo, and like you're less likely to get sort of killed by several enemies at once when you're by yourself. However, you do need to beware, and I call this the meat grinder. So if your team is just like, you'll see this a lot, where like everybody kind of get like transfixed on each other and sort of just run down the same like doorway or the same part of the map just over and over again, and all you see is like explosives just going off and everybody's just dying, getting like 1 or 2 kills and then dying. If you see this happening, just don't get involved in it. Like, it's not fun, you know. It's just a mental time in that environment. What you want to do is sort of come back and look on your minimap and just look for any flank routes, you know, if there's a way that you can sort of go around this like mess of players throwing grenades at each other, and then come behind the enemy and clear them out. Like, you'll get more kills that way. It's more enjoyable experience instead of just spawning in, getting C4'd or getting blown up by a grenade. So just beware of the meat grinder effect. And another tip about this is, remember, your team will never cover you. You know, if you see a teammate that's behind you and looking behind your back, just assume that he's not actually playing. Because I've done this before, I'm like, oh, this guy's got my back, and then next thing I know, he's next to me because I've started shooting an enemy, and then like 3 guys have come behind us and just shot us all in the back. So your teammate will never cover you unless you're actually speaking to him in like person. Otherwise, just, you know, it's better to just assume that they're not playing the game and just be checking your back every now and then. Now, this is another mechanic I mentioned earlier, and that's spotting enemies. It's something that not many people do, but it helps put your team in front of the enemy team. Essentially, what spotting does, and it's a mechanic in Battlefield 1 that allows you to spot enemy players and highlight them for both yourself, your squad, and your team, whether that's sort of in person or on the minimap. And by highlighting the enemy, your team then knows where they're coming from, and whether that's an enemy player or an enemy vehicle, they're then able to sort of act accordingly and sort of know where the enemy's coming from. So I do this all the time, and when I also start engaging enemies, I make sure to spot them. So if I get killed, at least then my team knows that, like, okay, there's like enemies coming, like we need to watch out for this. And I do it all the time for like enemy vehicles as well. If I see a vehicle off in the distance, I just put a mark on it, so that way then like teammates over that way, whether they're in a tank or in a plane, can then be able to engage that tank and sort of get the upper hand on them, since they know where they are. Spotting doesn't last, like, say like once you get spotted, you're spotted until you die. That's not a thing. It's sort of about, I believe it's sort of 30 seconds to a minute. I can't remember the exact time, but there are sort of things that help reduce it. Whether you're like an infantry, there's perks for that, or in a plane, tank, there's perks that help reduce that. But it's just something you want to get in the habit of, because it helps both yourself and your team just so much, and not many people do it. But just by doing it, you're just a big asset on the battlefield already, just from spotting enemy players. And you get a nice bit of XP from it as well. If a teammate shoots an enemy that you spotted, you get a nice assist for it as well. So it's all about getting XP and helping to complete challenges, level up the classes, and everything else. Now, if you want to know more and learn more about playing Battlefield 1, whether that's different classes, new tips for new players, more in-depth tips, I've got full guides and videos on my channel. I'll have it linked down below and at the end of this video as a playlist, and you'll be able to sort of flick through and be able to learn more about each class and how and what and where and who, and the amount of different tips there are on Battlefield 1. This is how you get ahead, you know, because it's stuff that took me years to learn, but I'm helping you guys out by just giving it to you now, so you can get more of an understanding and get brought up to speed. Because like I said, this game's been out for a while. There's guys that have just pretty much only played this game, so you want to kind of be able to get the jump on them as well. Just so make sure to check those videos out. It'll help a bunch. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe. Like I said, plenty of content on Battlefield 1 and more coming in the future, so you'll be notified when that gets uploaded. Also, I'm currently working towards getting 500 subscribers here, so we can do community live streams, you know, to have a fun time with, you know, the odd live stream, and as well as get the community tab, so we can do voting and just like general more interaction really on this channel. So that will really help out as well if you subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one.